is taking place in all 50 states, right?
I think it is either all 50 or close. I'm the North Carolina organizer for the North Carolina strikes, and we have 4 in North Carolina, which is pretty good for a red state, so I'm super excited about that.
Well, I get the impression that this is not a one-time deal. You guys are committed for the long haul, right?
Yes. This is just the first action. This is just, striking is not the end all. Striking is just the beginning of making sure that people understand the urgency of climate change, and then once we go vote, we can start taking action. And then once we get elected officials in government that actually represent us, then we can start making policies that represent the people and best work for their health.
I would just add to that, like, striking in itself probably won't do that much, but it's the awareness that's kind of garnered from striking that allows people to go out and vote, to go out and engage in civil disobedience, to formulate policies, to change people's minds through those human-to-human interactions that we were talking about in storytelling. It is all of that. That is why striking is so important, because we are directly causing this action to, as a pipeline, to put pressure on the state government and the federal government.
So what do you feel when you see on television an older political leader who I'm not trying to get you to, I'm not trying to focus on President Trump, I'm really not, but because unfortunately there are a lot of people who fit this description. When you see an older political leader who makes statements on television and in speeches that there is no such thing as the climate crisis and it's just a waste of time, silly to worry about it. If you could say something to that person to express your feelings, what would it be? I'm going to give all 4 of you a chance to answer that.
Should I start? So we've seen that in North Carolina. We have a very bad gerrymandering problem. So we have elected officials who aren't representing the people in each county and in each district. And there have been elected officials who have basically said that the communities where this environmental injustice is happening, that are getting the hog waste, that are getting the coal ash, that are getting the Atlantic Coast Pipeline are expendable. And I want to give a shout out to Table 33 because y'all are from Duplin County, and that is the major hog waste site, and you do not get enough credit for literally living each day. And I drive through that area and it's so hard to breathe, I can't even imagine living there. So I wanted to say that I would have some choice words to say, however, I would want to amplify the voices of the people who are actually living this reality day after day due to our politicians' inaction. I feel like they have incredible stories to tell, and we could truly change minds by these youth like literally just telling about their struggle to live every single day with like raw hog sewage and the fact that they don't have drinkable water for 4 months. Why aren't we talking about that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely say, like, why are you ignoring this? Why are you ignoring human rights? Why are you ignoring world problems? Why are you ignoring national security? But I would also want to give other people the chance to speak because I think that that voice is equally, if not more important.
Well, good for you.
Adding on to that, I would say that when we talk about politicians and we talk about our representatives, they're elected representatives, and if they no longer represent you, then they should no longer be your representatives.
That's right.
And there's an entire systemic problem. It's an entire problem that we must fix from the root to future generations. There's long-term solutions to this as well. It's to educating the future generation about the basics of climate change and about the basics of climate science. And in the past Congress, they had a bill that was introduced in both the Senate and Congress. That was a Climate Change Education Act. And that proposed to have students actually be educated universally about climate change. And that will profoundly change the conversation around climate change. And that will allow us to talk significantly more about having tangible solutions and not battling over the validity of the crisis itself. And when we talk about elected officials, when we talk to them and say, can you please represent me? We go to them not begging them, but we go to them saying that they're like a person that represents you, and they're a person that is on your behalf to speak to your government. And when we're enacting new policies, it is that they no longer represent us anymore, because they're now being sold like plots of land to different corporations that are not representing the people but representing companies. And that is the shift, is because Citizens United, which made it so that money is now speech, and now that a corporation is now a person. It is that we have to change that systemic problem. We have to change the system in itself in these legislations that allows corruption to be legalized and legitimized. That is not acceptable in a democracy.
So I would also have some choice words for the old person that is saying that climate change isn't real. I'm a scientist. I work in a paleoclimatology lab, and I don't know, the science behind climate change is overwhelming. I don't think that it should be a matter of opinion. Like, we see data and studies pointing to the direction that the world is warming, and that we are facing a climate crisis. So first I would ask them who's paying them to say that, that there is no climate crisis. And then I would ask them to listen to people's stories, because just listening to the stories from last night really gave me some perspective that I did not have prior to this training, and I think that it would change a lot of minds if we amplified the voices of the communities that are most affected.
Great. Well said.
Okay, so let's say that with Lily, what she said, I do have some choice words, but those are not going to be spoken today. So I would go with 4 words. I believe the scientist. And then, what is it, like 99% of scientists provide evidence saying, showing that.
Before we run out of time here, let's say you have a conversation not with an elected official, but with somebody who's not registered to vote and doesn't care about participating in the system. And you set out to convince this person that for the sake of our future, it's really important for people to register to vote and vote. Maybe it's too simple a question, but have you got any fresh takes on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually forgot to mention this, but I am the co-founder of Triangle People Power, which is a multi-issue advocacy group, and we focus a lot on voter registration and voting rights. So I have been involved in basically just getting about 300 people registered to vote in schools across the Triangle area. But something that I have noticed is the apathy. The apathy either comes from one of 2 reasons. One, because you don't feel like you are affected by politics, and that is more of a privileged standpoint. The other, because it is in more disenfranchised communities, feel like no matter what elected official comes into power, they're not going to represent the interests of people who are the most marginalized. So I think when approaching that question, you have to ask, where are they coming from first? And then you can kind of formulate your answer. I've had more experiences with people who have been apolitical due to the fact that they feel that they aren't affected. And so I kind of come with the education and the facts and the statistics, and I say, hey,
So Jerome, you would definitely want to encourage people to vote. So how would you convince a person who's apathetic?
So I'm actually taking 3 approaches to this. The first is that I understand that me being only 16 years old, I don't have all the answers, and I don't understand the complexities of some things that are going on. So this summer I'll be going to Harvard for 7 weeks studying international environmental governance, policy, and social justice, as well as calculus 2, because I like math. And learning about how to effectively talk to people about these solutions and talk to people about climate change. Another approach I'm taking is that when I talk to people, I don't mention climate change at first, because climate change is such a charged word at this point that you just immediately block a person out as soon as you say the word. So what I do is I talk to a person and say, what change have you seen in your community that you can describe? What do you see? Have you seen your plants are not growing as tall as they used to? Have you seen other change in your community? And then I talk to them about that small change in your community is not isolated to yourself. It is a part of a global system that is radically tearing down all the systems that have been in place for millions of years.
Okay.
And another approach that I'm taking is a more technological approach. I said that I went to Iceland and filmed in virtual reality. I started a virtual reality company in 9th grade, which is to basically talk about the civic aspect of it and talk about the convergence of technology and civic issues and specifically with virtual reality because you're putting someone in the shoes of another person that gives them empathy, and empathy and unity is the only way we can solve this crisis. So just giving them through virtual reality, giving them that empathy and putting them in that perspective of another person that is not as privileged as us living in the United States right now.
Wow. Okay. Well, very sophisticated, very powerful. Yeah. Gabrielle.
I would just like to say that they covered that very well. But I actually also registered people to vote in the state of Iowa during the last election that just happened. Yeah, so that was an interesting experience. So I would say that people either don't care, like they're apathetic to it because they are privileged or because they are uneducated on how the policies are going to affect them, similarly to what Lily said. But I really think that we need better policy communication. I think they kind of want to make it complicated so that people don't really know what's happening. So I think we need to communicate these policies, how they're going to affect these communities, what they're going to do to help these communities, and I think that will just lead to all around everyone being more educated on the political process.
Great, great. Levi, you got some thoughts on this?
Well, they pretty much covered it all.
Okay. We were together in the march on the White House I showed you a picture of yesterday, back about last July? Yeah, 2 years ago. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I introduced this group to you by saying welcome to the future. I feel pretty good about the future. Please join me